When I was 17, I found myself on a plane, headed to London. I was with the family of the Lettivers, who I had known since I was born, and they were on their way to a European vacation, and I was on my way from the place I was born, Los Angeles, to the place I should have been born, which was England. Now, I was not just going there because I wanted to be English. I had someone waiting. I had met Alan from my Yahoo Pen Pals personal ad, circa 1999, and we had been talking for more than a year. We got along very well. We had the same bands. He would send me mixtapes. We connected. It was obvious. He was 29 and he had a 2-year-old kid, but he was English and he was really nice, and I knew it was going to work out. And we were friends. We were pen pals. And it was not the first internet stranger I had met from this ad. I had already seen someone for about 9 months, and his name was Nick, and he was a 22-year-old vegetarian gun nut. And he read my ad and liked none of the bands and liked none of the literature, but he really dug my occupation, which was I operate on babies for business and pleasure. And as a 16-year-old, I thought this was very clever. And as a 36-year-old, I am so glad that part of the internet is gone. Because I have friends who have kids. I have 2 little nephews. It's not funny. And I don't know what he thought was funny, but we hung out for 9 months. And I would say we dated for 9 months, but officially we were pen pals. And the only way we could hang out is if I had 2 of my friends come with me. And that was because you could easily fake that one person was with you, but 2 people was a whole different thing to arrange. Not that I didn't figure it out sometimes. So officially, we had 9 months of being chaperoned on adventures. When I was chosen, it was no surprise to me, because everyone who knew me, in the church I grew up in the school, anyone who had a conversation more than 1 minute knew that I was the #1 top Anglophile in my general area at any given time. Even when it was 103 degrees out, I would be wearing wool vests and ascots and tweed coats with leather elbows, and I would sit down after school and drink my hot cup of tea like it was the medicine that was going to transform me from this ugly American into the beautiful superstar English person that I knew I was supposed to be. So when the Lettivers needed someone to accompany Shinani to be their teenager for hire, I was chosen. And I saved my money. I worked every weekend at the seafood restaurant that made me smell like seafood for the whole weekend, but it was worth it because I was going there. And so the way my parents agreed to this was I would go to London with the whole family, and we'd spend a couple days doing sightseeing, and then the parents would go on their vacation, and Shinani and Josh would join me up north. And they would meet Alan, they would check him for all the traits of serial killers, and if it was okay, they would move along and it would be fine. So it's a couple days into the London part, and we're having a good time, and I'm enjoying seeing the sights, but I didn't really come here for this. I came here to have an authentic English experience. And so I told them that I didn't have the money. I couldn't go on the Millennium Eye, I couldn't go to the 700 British museums that there are. And it was true, I didn't have that money. And somehow I convinced them. So I found myself within a day on the National Express, which is the English equivalent of the Greyhound, traveling by myself for the first time in my 17 years. And it was mostly okay. I woke up from my nap with someone's hand on my leg, but it was going to be totally fine. I was on this adventure, and I was impenetrable. I had 5,500 miles between me and my church that I grew up in, and my parents, and I was strong, and I was powerful, and I was about to meet Alan. Alan, who I talked to on the phone. After a couple minutes, I could understand him. He sent me snacks from his town. I looked up on MapQuest all the streets that he talked about. I was so excited, and I was nervous, and I didn't know what it would be like, but I knew it was going to be fine. And we pulled up into the station in Belper, which was 136 miles north of London, and I looked down from the windows, and I recognized him. I had only had a couple photos because he was shy, but I had all these words, and there was no one else waiting, so it had to be him. But he didn't look at me. I beamed these laser beams of excitement. Ah! We're meeting! And he didn't look up. And I thought that was weird, but I just grabbed my bag and I'll just go down. And he looked up and he smiled. And I discovered why he hadn't been looking at me. Because he didn't have one of his two front teeth. And it surprised me because he hadn't mentioned this. But he knew I was coming. So I thought, there was probably some freak accident. It's probably totally explainable. And then I thought, what if I'm about to be murdered? What if this internet genius has played this real long con and has lured me here and is gonna murder me? So I went to his house anyway. Because what was I gonna do? I didn't think there was a bus back down. Let's just figure it out. And we had a cup of tea and we had some Marmite on toast. And it was awful, but the tea was okay, and I pretended I liked the Marmite because it's very, very English. And we chatted, and he told me that he was chasing his 2-year-old and had hit something trying to keep him from running in the street. So it was perfectly understandable. And I then proceeded just to have the most amazing time. Everything I was excited about was so much more exciting. Going to the grocery store was like a revelation. I still go to the grocery store every time I go to a new place. To get to his supermarket, we had to pass through this field. To get to his favorite pub, we had to pass through a graveyard that was at least 300 years old. And I know there was another way, but I think he was like, he knew what was up and what I would really like. So I had this amazing time. And then Shinani and Josh came up, and they checked him out, and they were like, he's cool. I don't know why he wants to hang out with you, but he's cool, and then they left. And I smoked my first pot with some of Alan's friends from the pub, and I don't know if it affected me, but it was in this little crowded room, and everyone was very hush-hush, and someone put a Led Zeppelin cassette on, and it was just like, oh, everything about this is so amazing. And the week went on, and I thought, why do I have to go back? There is like 5,500 miles between them reaching me and pulling me back there. I could just stay here and get a waitressing job or clean houses or whatever. Alan would help me, He said I was great with this kid. I could be his new nanny or something. But there was that problem of citizenship, and I had already researched because I knew I would have to live in England someday, and so there was all these legal things coming between me and that. And so I knew how hard it was to get citizenship, to get a green card. I didn't have any special skills, but I did have a friend who might let me marry him. So I was thinking about this, and I think Alan must have been thinking about this because he was really friendly, and he said I could stay in his bed because the couch was not that comfortable, and mostly his son was there, so it was mostly fine. And anyways, no relationship is perfect. And if I went back to suburbia, then I would just have to find another older internet gentleman to drive me around. And that sounded really tiring. So I had kind of made up my mind already. And there was one more night left, and I was supposed to have gone down to London, but Alan had convinced me to stay, and he hired someone he knew to drive me back down for 400 pounds, and we had this blast night out, and we just got so drunk, and he sang me these karaoke songs, which I didn't know, and I don't know if it's a cultural thing or an age thing, but they were bad, but it was real sweet, and he got down on one knee at the end of the night and said, "Will you marry me?" And I was like, this guy's a mind reader, he's amazing. How do you know that we were gonna get married as friends? I would come over to England. But anyways, it was all gonna work out. So I said yes, and he said he'd mail me a ring when he saved up enough money for one. Sounded legit. And we kissed, and we embraced, and then I got in the cab, and I went back down to London, and I collected all my things, and I got back on the plane, and I never saw Alan again.